In my own life, I've run so much of it by my gut and by intuition and by listening to the still small voice within. It's really about making sure that whoever comes onto the team shares the same beliefs that we do, shares the same vision, cares about making a difference. At different stages of our life and at different stages of our creative process, we need to work in different rhythms.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men all my life. Like nah, 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 nah. For my top 10, top 10, nah, nah, nah. This one's for my top 10.
Need motivation?
Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So get ready to prove yourself, change your perspective, and find the right people with Marie Forleo and my take on her top 10 rules of success to give you the confidence, motivation, and belief that you need. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule #1. Prove yourself.
When I was first starting B School, I was really excited about getting it out into the world, and I went to a marketing conference to network and to meet people and to find promotional partners. And so I was really excited to tell people about the program, and I was on this escalator heading up to like the first session of the day. I was really excited, and there's this guy in front of me, and you know, at conferences, everybody likes to introduce themselves and learn about what you do. And so this guy looks at me, and he looked at my name tag and goes, "Oh, you know, what do you do? What are you doing here?" And I started telling him about B School, this online business school for women entrepreneurs. And his face kind of went blank, and he looked at me and he's like, "Oh, that's cute. Do you expect to make money with that? Do you have a rich husband who's bankrolling you?" And I was so stunned that this guy said this right to my face. Meanwhile, the truth was that I was supporting myself in my own business for almost a decade at that point. I had already been making quite good money, and no, I did not have a rich husband. It took everything in me not to want to really deck this guy and throw him off the escalator, but it was probably one of the moments that fired me up so much, because this guy saying something so rude and so chauvinistic to me, all it did was get me more fired up to prove him and anyone out there who underestimated me completely wrong.
Rule #2, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
We honestly don't think about our own mortality enough. I think death is one of those taboo kind of topics in our culture, and we don't really face it. We don't think about it. We don't talk about it enough. We don't imagine ourselves dying enough. We don't really just dive in. And one of the weird little tricks that I use on myself, especially when I'm just being horrible in my own relationship, or I'm being not the person I know I'm capable of being, I'm having a temper tantrum, I'm stressed, I'm just being an ass, whatever it is. I've used this in my relationship with Josh, where I will literally fast forward to the point where like I imagine him laying in a coffin and me going, "Why were you such an asshole? Why didn't you take that time? Why did you let that fight go on for 4 hours or a day or whatever it is?" Or in those moments where I feel myself tightening up or shutting down or withholding love, I try and check myself before I wreck myself. I go, there's gonna come a day where you're gonna flash back on this moment and wished that you just gave him a hug, or wish that you went in and said, "I love you." It's coming. For all of us. So if you can remember that now, you change everything.
Rule #3, change your perspective.
I was believing that if I didn't work constantly, that I wasn't a worthy person, that I wasn't doing enough to make my business successful, that I was perhaps letting people down. And so I had to really shift that and understand that, you know, I come from a background, I don't come from a wealthy background, so the work ethic in my nuclear family is very strong. Like my dad owned a small business. My mom, although she stayed home with us, she was constantly doing stuff, constantly working, constantly fixing things, constantly doing things that took care of the family. So that's the kind of DNA I grew up with, was like, no, if something needs to get done, you get it done.
Yeah.
It's not like you sit around all day and eating bonbons and watching TV.
Yeah.
So so that's kind of how I got there. But then I had to readjust if I actually wanted to not only have a successful business, but have a successful life.
Rule number 4, find the right people.
I always had a dream to have an amazing company that didn't necessarily have one home base. I'm fascinated by technology, and for me, it's about finding the right people who also believe in that same idea that you can do great work, that you don't necessarily have to share the same physical space all the time, but that if you're united behind a vision and behind values and behind wanting to do incredible work in this world, that you can create amazing results and only see each other a couple times a year. So for us, it's really about making sure that whoever comes onto the team shares the same beliefs that we do, shares the same vision, cares about making a difference, and also is really self-motivated. Just because I'm the CEO of my company, everyone else in the company is very entrepreneurial. They might not want to run a company themselves, but they're self-starters, they're completely motivated, they're always looking for ways to solve problems, they have an attention on the bottom line, and they want to create huge change in this world.
Also, if you want to have more confidence and self-love, check out my 254 series. They're free. The links to join are in the description below.
Being a really, really good listener is one of the most underrated secrets to success. I wanted to be really successful, but not just to get shoes. I knew I wanted to make money because I wanted to make a difference. When I was bartending, I was fully bartending. I wasn't talking to myself about, oh my God, I should be dancing right now, or I should be working on my coaching practice.
Rule number 5, follow your intuition.
Talking specifically about the decision not to have kids, I remember when I did a MarieTV on that, I was so blown away by how many women were like, thank you for talking about this. And I also, it was friendly, I was waiting for the comments. I was like, I wonder how many people are going to say, oh, but you're going to regret it, or you're going to change your mind. For me, I actually don't believe I'll regret it at all. In my own life, I've run so much of it by my gut and by intuition and by listening to the still small voice within. And as I said on that show that I did, it was never a decision for me. I didn't weigh my options. I wasn't torn. It was clear. This, meaning who I am right now, is my path. Should some point happen between now and when I die that I want to have children in my life, there are many, many, many different options for me to execute, right? There's adoption, there's fostering, there's a million different ways that it could go. Should I change my mind, which again, I'm very open to. So I don't believe, in my case, that I'm gonna have any regret. I believe so strongly in how my life has unfolded, and I also have tremendous faith that it will continue to go exactly as it's meant to. And whenever my time is up, I feel really good about the ride.
Rule number 6, adjust as you move on.
And then really starting to see also how much more creative and productive I was when I scaled back a little bit. And that was a really powerful realization, because I think often, and I understand this, and I think it's important to contextualize this, because at different stages of our life and at different stages of our creative process, we need to work in different rhythms. Often when you're getting something off the ground, it's kind of like a rocket ship leaving the atmosphere. It takes a lot of inertia to break free from gravity, right, to get into that upper stratosphere. So there's a lot of work required in the beginning, but then you have to adjust as you move on. And I just needed to learn that lesson.
Rule number 7, use everything at your disposal.
A book that really changed my life was Half the Sky by Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Wudunn, and it really opened my eyes to the injustice and prejudice that women face all around the world, not only in this country, but in the developing world. And women are our most underutilized resource. And I feel like it's up to us to take care of each other. It's up to us to look and see what the needs are and to reach out and to fill those holes. It's like we can't wait for anyone else. We are the answer. So for me, it's vital to use everything in my power, whether that's financial resources, whether that's the platform that we've built, whether that's my connections, anything that I have at my disposal.
Rule number 8, know that everything is figureoutable.
It was kind of interesting when we were creating the book and started selling it actually into foreign markets. They're like, well, how are we going to define this word, everything is figureoutable, because it doesn't translate into other languages? And I was like, okay, it is achievable.
it means that something is possible. We started playing with all these words. But I think to answer the second question of how this phrase came about, I'm taking it back to Jersey, taking it back to the 80s, and taking it back to my mom, who is like this interesting character. So she's about 5'3". She looks like June Cleaver, and she curses like a truck driver. She grew up in the projects of Newark, New Jersey, to two alcoholic parents. And she learned by necessity how to stretch a dollar bill around the block like 5 times. And she promised herself that when she got older, she would find a way to a better life. So cut to me growing up in this Italian-American home. There's like, plastic covered couches, very working class. And one of my fondest memories was me and my mom sitting at the kitchen table and cutting out coupons. So because frugality is her number one thing in life, right? She loved teaching me all the different ways that we could save money. And she also introduced me to this idea of proofs of purchase. Do you remember those from? Yes. So if you save up the fact that you bought X amount of boxes of cereal or whatever, and you mailed in this little piece of the box, that these brands would send you like a cookbook or utensils, like good stuff for free. And one of my mom's most prized possessions was this tiny little orange radio, like transistor AM, FM. It had a little red and white straw sticking out of the side. That was the antenna. And she got it for free from Tropicana orange juice. And my mom is the kind of person who's always busy, always doing something. And so as a kid, I knew the way to find her was to listen for the sound of that tinny little radio coming like somewhere from the yard or in the house. So like one day I was walking home from school and I heard the radio off in the distance. And as I got closer, it was coming from above, which was a strange kind of orientation. And I look up and we had a 2-story house. And my mom, who's tiny, is perched on the top of the 2-story house, like very precariously. And when you're little and you're short, everything is amplified. And I was like, Mom, is everything okay? Like, what are you doing up there? And in her very Jersey accent, she's like, Ree, I'm fine. The roof had a leak in it. I called the roofer. He said it's going to be at least $500. I said, screw that. I went into the garage. There was extra asphalt. I'm going to fix it. And I was just like, okay, that's Mom. Another time I came home and I heard the radio like blaring from the back of the house. So I walked to the back of the house and I saw the bathroom. It was like the door was cracked open. And as I pushed the door open, the whole room was filled with dust particles. There was like pipes sticking out of the wall. It looked like a bomb went off. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, is everything okay? And she said, the tiles had cracks in them and I didn't want the bathroom to get moldy. So I'm retiling the bathroom. Now, Tom, you got to get this again is the 1980s. My mom is high school educated. This was pre-internet, pre-YouTube, pre-Google. I never knew like where I would find my mom or what I'd find her doing, but that radio was always my clue. So one day, it was in the fall in New Jersey, the daylight savings had already passed, so it was dark and it was spooky. And I went home and it was totally silent. And the house was dark, which is very odd for my family. So I walk in and I had that pit in my stomach that you have when you're nervous that something's wrong. And I start walking around the house and I didn't know where my mom was. And I felt like something bad had happened. And then all of a sudden I heard these tiny clicks and clacks. And I followed the sound to the kitchen. And I saw my mom hunched over the kitchen table. It was like an operating room. She had like electrical tape and screwdrivers, and in a dozen or so little pieces, her Tropicana orange was completely dismantled. And I was like, Mom, that's your little radio. What happened? Are you okay? Is it broken? And she said, oh, it's fine. The antenna was off and the dial was not working right. So I'm fixing it. And that was the first time I thought to ask the question that I really needed to ask all along, which was, how do you know how to do so many different things that you've never done before, yet no one's showing you how to do them? And she put down her screwdriver and she cocked her head and she looked at me and she's like, what are you talking about? It's not that big of a deal. Nothing in life is that complicated. You can do anything you set your mind to. If you roll up your sleeves, you get in there and you do it. Everything is figureoutable. And I was like just in that moment. And I will tell you this, I don't know, Tom, for sure, whether she said those 3 words or that's what my childhood brain heard and translated, because you know how we do that kind of thing. But that phrase got embedded in my soul on such a deep level, and I just said it over and over again. And then I realized, as I became an adult, it's been the single biggest driving force of my life. Like from, continuing to get rejected on like sports teams and cheerleading and going again and again, and like getting out of an abusive relationship when it was like my first love, to like getting into classes in college, to getting every part-time job I've ever gotten, every full-time job I've ever gotten, getting out of relationships, into relationships, building the entire business. Like I still use that phrase every single day.
Rule number 9, take breaks.
And then in the company, I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but one day I was in New York and I was having like a really bad PMS craving for carbs. I was just like, Mama needs some carbs. And I was feeling like a croissant. And there was this great little French bakery around the corner that I had never been to. And I'm like, I'm gonna go get my croissant right now. So I roll up to this little French bakery, and on the window, there was like this handmade sign that said, off for vacation back, July 18th. And it was like this 2-week thing.
Wow. You were like, what?
And I was like, wait, what?
Your business, you need to be here.
Yes. And yet it was empty. And this simple little like hand-drawn sign. And in that moment, Louis, I had this notion. I was like, wait a minute, I'm running this digital company. I have all of these amazing, beautiful, gorgeous souls that I work with. And we're producing content once a week, every week, nonstop. When do we ever take a break? And the advantage for me, like Josh, who works in entertainment, like series, sometimes they'll have, you watch your favorite series. Like I love Handmaid's Tale. I love Stranger Things. You see 11 or 12 episodes and
you wait a year.
And yes. And then they're off for a little while, right? And I thought to myself, why do I not have downtime built into my business? And this was about the time when also there was just a cultural uprising with like, hustle 24/7 and you have to work nonstop and like never take a break, and I'll sleep when I'm dead. And I'm like, those are horrible messages for your health.
Yeah.
So we decided after I had my croissant craving, I told my director of operations, I said, starting right now, we're gonna close the company down for 2 weeks in the summer and 2 weeks in the winter, and in addition to people's already having
vacation
their vacation time. And we started that, I guess maybe, 5-6 years ago. I might be wrong on those dates, but a good number of time ago. And so our company goes dark twice a year. And now the company's at a place where not everyone in customer service takes off those exact same 2 weeks, so they stagger so that we can take care of people. But everyone has 2 weeks of dark time, 2 weeks of dark time. And what's great about that is that you don't get FOMO, thinking that you're off and there's all these other things happening and there's projects moving ahead and there's these things that you want to be in on, but you're like feeling that tension because the rest of the company is moving ahead and you're trying to relax. So it's been a game changer for us.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is find the best in people.
Yeah, that like just devastating sense of loss. It's pretty crazy how fast that'll snap you out of some bullshit.
Oh, it will snap you out of some bullshit. And it will stop you from being in a temper tantrum. And you can use that same notion. Again, some people might say this is incredibly morbid. I say it's incredibly inspiring. I say if you can use it to wake yourself up out of that slumber of staying in your temper tantrum or being pissed at your parents or pissed at your friends or pissed at someone who, again, if you can see them as an innocent doing the best that they possibly could with whatever tools and understanding and beliefs and thoughts that they had in that moment, you can find a way to transcend, to reconnect to your heart and to be that love that you really are.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Marie on how to impact others that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. What is your intuition telling you that you need to act on? Number 2, how can you better use everything that's at your disposal? And number 3, what's the perspective shift that you need to make? And if you made it this far in a video and you commit that you're gonna take action, we don't just watch videos here, we do something, give me a hashtag believe down in the comments below because I want to celebrate you.
I was writing the manuscript, writing, okay, let's be real. I was like bleeding, like, oh, I can't write this. Like, just trying to pound out on my keyboard. I am not an easy, like everything flows kind of writer. It's very torturesome for me. And I was trying really hard to write the manuscript. I saw my friend Toby. We said hi. He's like, Marie, how's the business? What's going on? What's happening in your life? And I said, everything is great. And I'm working on this manuscript. And he's like, why are you doing a book? He's like, that's so much work. And that's such a huge commitment. And everything else seems to be going great. It's not like you need to write a book. And I said, Toby, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, which could happen, I don't want it to happen. I hope I'm around for a very long time. But if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, this is the one idea that I would want to leave behind. That's it. Everything else I've done, that's awesome. It's beautiful. I'm proud of it. But if I can communicate this idea effectively and give people the gift that I was able to receive from my mom growing up, like I could go on to the next adventure feeling very satisfied.
If you want 10 more amazing rules from Marie Forleo, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
If you're going to be a success, you have to narrow down, pick one thing, specialize in it, and be the best at that thing. And maybe in like 10 or 20 years, you're going to be awesome.